Welcome to the Strong Bull Podcast, where we break down the world of fitness and performance with no fluff, just facts. Whether you're an athlete, fitness enthusiast, or someone looking to build better performance in your everyday life, this is the place for you. Each week, we dive into the latest trends, practical tips, and expert advice on everything from fitness education, programming for different populations, to helping you unlock your full potential. So whether you're looking to optimize your training, learn something new, or just get motivated, we've got you covered. Thanks for listening, and let's dive in. All right, guys, welcome back to the Strong Bull Podcast. I'm here with my co-host. I'm Dom Dixon, and I'm here with Rob Dela Cruz from Cerus Performance. We're going to bring you guys a virtual one today. We're going to be pumping these out a lot more as we go, bringing you guys topics that we come across, some hot topics that are just, trending in the fitness space, as well as supplement space. So let's go ahead and dive right in today. So big topic that, we were just talking about briefly before this call is there too much information out there? Now with just technology, with AI, you name it, there's a ton of information out there. Rob, what do you think? You think there's too much information out there?
There's definitely too much misinformation out there.
Like that, yeah. Okay. Go ahead and dive in a little bit. What do you mean by misinformation?
Well, what I tend to see, because I work with a lot of the general population, is that they're getting bombarded by these messages all the time. And a lot of it has to do with the flash on what works and what doesn't work. And when they come in and ask your question, or they've come from another program and they feel like they have to move all the time and it has to be sweat and it has to be intense and then they have to be tired. I thought a lot of that misinformation was kind of going away, but it's still here and it's very prevalent.
I think it's getting more and more too. I think there's like the saying, there's nothing new under the sun. And I feel like when somebody stumbles upon something that's been around for decades and then they bring it to light and then they want to change it, right? They want to take that information that is tried and true and it's, methodologies have been around forever. People want to tweak it and kind of, origami it and make it something that it's not. And then they want to spit it back out. And then people are like, wait, that doesn't make sense. It's not true. We come across that a lot in our fitness space with people just doing general programming. Like, how many people out there can't understand the basic periodization or even structure of strength and conditioning? I mean, you probably see that a lot in being in a gym space for so long, right?
Nonstop. I think one of the biggest misinformations is what does actual strength training look like?
Yeah. So how would you define strength training?
So the definition of it, strength training has a lot more to do with the rest involved in the environment you're doing in than it does the exercises. So that's kind of like, I wouldn't say that's a definition, but that's like basically a description.
Yeah.
And what we tend to see and run into is a lot of people come in and it's kind of a form of strength endurance they're basically used to and what they see.
Yeah.
But what happens is if you don't have a foundation of strength,
yes,
strength endurance becomes basically straight up conditioning and cardio.
Absolutely. I was listening to that podcast you sent me today with Power Athlete.
Yep.
He's like, strength is the basis of everything. And there's so many people out there that are shying away from strength now. I guess they think that this evolution of a hybrid athlete is something new. At the end of the day, weak things break. If you're not strong, you don't have a base strength, that expiration date of you doing whatever you're doing will surely come to an end, right? Or something has to give, right?
Without a doubt. And what you tend to see is that they don't see the progress they're looking for. I don't want to say every, but most franchise models and boot camps, they're all based kind of similar. They all have strength tied into their name somewhere, or they're saying there's a version of strength training.
Yeah.
But once you start to take a look underneath under the hood, it's not strength training. It's mostly conditioning or cardio that can be classified.
Well, even we talk a lot about CrossFit. They've tried to normalize this rapid form or this higher, or not higher intensity, but this simulated form of strength training and cram it into an hour, make it 15-minute strength training, which it's unheard of to think about. You're going to actually build strength in 15 minutes and include rest and warm up and general progression in 15-minute time in your class just to go into a fast Metcon. Doesn't make any sense to me. But I think that comes back to like there's so much information out there that this theory combats this theory and this methodology combats this methodology, and I think they go hand in hand. A lot of times they can go hand in hand, but most people think that more is better. They think that what's out there is the truth instead of actually doing their own research and digging to the bottom of it, right?
Yeah, and they, when it comes down time to it, is they end up doing, and like this was brought popular from a long time ago, but it ends up being a lot of junk volume.
Yeah,
Ends up not doing what they think it's doing.
yeah,
And there's a difference between optimal and tolerable. And I've said that over and over, and I got it from someone else.
absolutely.
And like the amount of volume and intensity you need for optimal to see really good results in adaptation is way less than what is tolerable. But
Absolutely.
everyone goes to tolerable.
Where,
And
where,
all these programs are set up like that.
where do you think that people gravitate towards that tolerable threshold? Is it because they feel like there's more in the tank? Or do you think it's because of the misinformation of like, oh, like suffering in every workout is what's going to get you to your goals?
I think that's it.
I think that's what it is. So the highlight that people see, whether that's
Yeah.
social media, whether that's word of mouth, or even in person, that if I'm not suffering, I'm not succeeding almost.
Correct.
It's like that.
Yes, 100%. It's
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So I've had the issue a lot. Obviously, majority of the clients that I've worked with in the last 5 years are virtual. And then knowing that what I'm writing for them is enough. And then finding out, they have this injury. And I'm like, okay, how'd that happen? And they're telling me, oh, it's because I do this, this, and that on those other days. I'm like, well, what I wrote for you wasn't enough. But it goes back to that they're on their phones, looking at information on Instagram, trying out these workouts that they're finding, and along with the full-fledged program that I'm creating. So what I'm saying is that I think that what most people don't do in this space is put blinders up, right? I think finding or trusting the process of whatever program, whatever training you're going into, and if it doesn't work, you have time to switch over to another one after you run this one's course. I think that's something that most people are afraid to do is they're so quick to change direction, but they want to add 10 things in that direction.
Well, they want it faster. And so, I mean, we're going to cover the other topic a lot more, like
Yeah,
biological benefit to cost.
yeah,
But quite often, there's going to be a biological cost later on,
yeah,
but the results are up front.
yeah.
And that skews people's understanding.
Okay.
So it's just like the real quick diet,
Oh yeah, the instant abs.
or it's like the big time 4 week, 6 week, whatever boot camp.
Yeah,
That you see the result up front, but the cost is later.
yeah.
And that's very confusing for people.
So yeah, so the next topic, like, what is the difference in biological benefits and cost of exercise? How would you explain that?
Yeah, so we'll go with the biological benefit. So biologically, there's a benefit to exercise. You go in the exercise, your kind of body adapts. You see all these good like different blood markers and different biological markers. Basically, you get stronger, you get faster, whatever it is, and over time it just compounds and builds.
Yeah,
And you see that right away with a bunch of different ways to do it, from strength training to endurance. But a biological cost, you rarely see that up front, but you see it later on.
yeah,
And what it is a lot of times people get confused. The difference in that could just be the environment and the way the exercise or workout was put together.
yeah. So the intention behind the structure of your program.
Correct.
Yeah,
So like if we went ahead and we did, let's just take like a CrossFit workout, and you did a thruster burpee 21, 15, 9.
hmm,
Okay, and you do it for time. That's a great workout. Okay. If you go and you do it really fast, like the 3 minutes or whatever it is, there's a lot of benefit, but you do that all the time something similar to that, there's
Yeah,
going to be a cost. Nervous system,
absolutely.
hormonal system. Now let's say that same workout, the same amount of rep schemes, it's like 45 reps
Yeah,
on each. And you went ahead and you did like 7 to 10 thrusters and 7 to 10 burpees, and you rested 1 minute between. And you did that for the 4 rounds.
yeah,
Okay. Same amount of reps, same amount of work, not done as fast. The next day, one you'll get up really sore from, the other one you didn't even notice you did it.
exactly. Yeah. So creating that, I mean, that goes back to the intention marker. If I'm intentional, right, and I'm able to look at it from that viewpoint of like, it's not about how quickly I can how quickly I can finish the workout. It's how efficiently I can finish this workout, right? And
Well, it's efficiently and effective.
yeah,
And I don't want to say that I'm saying do not ever do that for time and never go
no,
fast.
no,
But when you start to do that, that does cost later on all the time. When that's your go-to all the time.
absolutely. I think it's a lot
Regardless
of
if you're moving it around different workouts, it's
yeah,
still a cost eventually over time and it stops being a benefit.
absolutely. And you think that's when people get that jump the train mentality of like, all right, well, I've been doing CrossFit for 5 years and I haven't improved in three. And it's like, well, yeah, anything you do at first have that novelty to it, you're going to get good at, you're going to conquer it, you're going to progress fast. But I think there's so many people in those spaces, and not just CrossFit, but any modality that there's no intention are running into that. There's a biological, I guess, not benefit, but more of a biological, what's another word I'm looking for? Like negative side effect to it because they
Yeah,
don't.
like the cost of it.
Yeah. And then at the end of the day, they're like, well, this doesn't work for me anymore. It's not that it doesn't work, you just didn't put it in an effective, efficient way.
Yeah, you got to change the way it looks a little bit. And the thing is, it's really this the way the workout looks and how it's laid out and progressed.
Yeah.
You got to be careful because sometimes you'll hear words from like certain methods or like whatever principles they're using, and they'll use something like the fastest way to get favorable adaptation.
Yeah.
And favorable sounds great, but when you hear fastest, fastest rarely means sustainable, progressive over time. You're going to see.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a saying that quick things don't last long.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I know they throw the word in favorable, which is great, but that's rarely sustainable over time. And if you want to do this for a long time and see progression,
Yeah.
certain ways things need to look.
There has to be a build up. There has to be a ramp. There has to be progression.
Correct.
I think that's really lost in a lot of not just programs, but in sports. And when I say sport, I'm meaning like methodologies of training, like modalities. There's a lot of that missing factor, I think, out there. And I think that's why there's too much information and nobody knows how to nail it down, right? I think you talk about a lot like pie in the sky. It's just, there's really not a lot of weight to it. People just kind of flopping and bouncing back and forth.
Well, and the thing is like the confusion, like intensity is pretty important. It's
Yeah.
really important. And I guess they like certain different camps define intensity a little different.
Yeah.
CrossFit defines it as like work capacity. The faster you're doing something, the more intense.
Yeah.
Then you have like powerlifting, and I would say like bodybuilding. They define intensity as like either weights going up
Hmm.
or volume going up.
Yeah.
So like it's like kind of defined a little bit. But no matter what, like intensity as effort is important, but doing it every day could actually lead to some issues later on, and it's definitely a cost. And I'm not saying like you kind of like sandbag workouts, but every workout can't be fast. Every workout you can't go as heavy as possible
Yeah.
because eventually it costs you a little bit.
Absolutely. That's why it's important to have high, medium, and low days
Correct.
periodized into your program. But yeah, that was great, man. I think that topic it alone, like allowing people to just to hear the fact that there is a lot of information out there. So the next, call to action as we end this episode would be, how do you know the information, first of all, that you're adhering to is, what's for you, right? And secondly, how do you then efficiently and effectively execute that information and utilize it, right? I think the biggest thing is like to absorb information, digest it, and then call to action, whether that means you know, perform the programming or the information you used and apply it. What would you recommend those two things for somebody who's listening, especially in the general population space?
Well, it's basically like what they should be looking in a program or how they should feel when they're doing their program.
Okay.
And one of the things is, especially with general population, they all have jobs and a lot of stress.
Yeah.
For the majority of their workouts, they should be leaving better than when they went in.
Yeah.
Now,
So
I have no problem with doing something intense like once a week, possibly even twice a week, where you're kind of fatigued later on in the day, and that's great.
yeah.
That should not be a daily occurrence.
Yeah.
Like you have a job, so you should be leaving the majority of your workouts feeling good for the rest of the day and having energy.
Yeah, the risk to reward factor should be coming in a lot of people's heads whenever you're training. If
Yes.
you work a 9 to 5, I don't understand why your hands are ripped in your workout. Yeah, why you're sore, you can't bend over, like those things. Soreness is one thing, discomfort one thing, but if you're
Yeah.
in pain and you're suffering, you got to ask. You got to ask yourself, what am I doing this for? What is my intention?
Like all the time, you gotta kind of like reevaluate like
Yeah,
what's it's like the need to now. Do you need to feel like that all the
yeah,
time? Because you have
exactly.
a life and a job.
Yeah, this is one out of the 4 hours you're doing your day. So.
Yeah.
No, I love that. That was awesome. And I think anybody listening right now, just to take some of the few points that we talked about, digest them. If you have questions, obviously, you know where you can reach us. And by all means, guys, continue to train intentionally, continue to train effectively, and continue to train efficiently. Anything else, Rob?
That's it.
Awesome.